Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Installing Old Games on a New PC. Today's episode, I think, is going to be a fun one. We're going to be installing the classic Bungie game Oni. That's spelled O-N-I. Looking forward to this one. Should be interesting to see what happens. Let's see how we do. Hey guys, this is the Therapist Gamer here, and today we're going to be installing on our modern PC the 2001 mixed reception Bungie classic Oni. I'm installing this from the original CD. I happen to own the CD-ROM. I don't know if this game is available on any of the digital download platforms, but if it is, and you ever find it for cheap, it's maybe worth checking out. Hopefully, if we can get this game running today, we're gonna be able to check out a little bit of the gameplay, and I can sort of walk it through some of the important elements of the game. But the first thing that we've got to do is figure out if we can install the game on our modern PC. So the auto play and auto install appears to be working okay so far. And right now we're just walking through the install process to see how that goes. Looks like it's going to take a couple minutes to do its thing. My history with the video game Oni is that I purchased it at retail many years ago when it first came out, and I played a little bit of the game, but I could never get into it all that well. And some of the reasons will hopefully be a little more apparent if and when we can get the game running. We'll take a look at some of the reasons why I never finished the game. The game had a lot going for it, but I also think there were some pretty significant weaknesses in the game. So it looks like we're almost done installing here. We'll go ahead and say no to that, no to that, and no to that. So it takes us to the install directory, and we're going to try and just click on the shortcut and see if we can run the game. And it appears to be running. So this may be a shorter video than we had hoped for. I'll be quiet as we watch the introduction. All right, introduction's over. That's a little strange. It appears to have just dropped us back to the desktop there. So it played the opening video, and now we're back at the desktop, and there's no indication that the game is even running still. So let's see if there's anything in the documentation. I'm not sure why I'm checking this. It's not like there's going to be a section on running a 1999 game in Windows 10. So we'll close that out and give it another shot here. Let's try running it again. See if we can skip the opening scene. Okay, it's dropping us back to the desktop there. I would say the next thing we want to do is try and run it as an administrator. Always step number 2. Skip the opening, and it drops us back to the desktop. Okay, that's a little frustrating. Let's try compatibility mode. Like I said in my last video, I usually go with Windows 98. We might try Windows XP if this one doesn't work. We'll try running it again. It seems to run at least initially okay. And we'll skip the opening. And we're dropped back to the desktop. Okay, that's a little frustrating. Windows automatically pops up this little troubleshooter here. This usually doesn't accomplish anything, but since we're trying whatever we can to get it running, we'll give it a shot. We're going to try the recommended settings. And it's continuing to drop us back to the desktop. So I tell you what, I'm going to pause it here. And we're going to take a little break, and I'm going to try something else here. Hold on just a sec. Tried a couple other little basic Windows troubleshooting things and had the same results. So we're going to hit Google and type running Oni on Windows 7. Again, this is Windows 10, but generally you want to start with running Oni on Windows 7 since you'll usually get a little bit more results with that. So it looks like the first result we get is some step-by-step directions to running Windows 7. I'm running Oni on Windows 7. And it's pointing us to this file here. Let's try downloading the file. You always have to be a little skeptical about any kind of patch files that you find just floating around on the internet, but we're gonna give it a shot anyway. This is what this series is all about. It's just trying some stuff out. We're gonna extract the files. Okay, that's a little odd. Apparently that file is messed up. Let's go back. This is not helpful. Looks like there's a little video tutorial. First thing you want to try with video tutorials is looking down in the description section. And most of the time people are going to point to the files to download, and this guy that put together the video did. So it looks like we have an actual file here. And what we're supposed to do is replace the contents. I think there's an executable in this zip file, and we're supposed to replace the contents of that executable. Replace the original executable with this particular one. Just a single file. We'll extract it to our desktop and copy it over. So anytime I'm copying over a file over an original, I usually just retype the original file name as a backup and save it. And that way, if something goes wrong, I can just delete the back portion of that file name and go back to the original file, and normally things are okay. So let's give this a shot and see what happens. Hopefully this new file will work. I think it said to run it as an administrator, so we'll turn on compatibility mode. And I believe it said Windows 2000, if I'm not mistaken. And run as an administrator and apply. And we should be good. Let's see what happens. So there's our opening credits. Oh, we have liftoff. Alright, we're in good shape here. Options in these old games are always a crapshoot. This is kind of interesting. We actually have an option for 1920 by 1080, which is fairly unusual for a 15-year-old game. So we're going to turn everything up to its max if possible. And we're going to launch the game. Looks like one of the side effects of using that executable is that we get to watch some of the videos in a little window in the center of the screen. But now that it's gone full screen, it looks like it's running okay. So this is Oni.
Let's begin.
It's always fun to kind of replace the Oni character with Master Chief, and you can sort of see some of the same assets. A lot of the textures and
Better warm up.
walls and structures are very similar, probably identical between
That's it. You're
the original
dashing
Halo
perfectly.
and
Dashing
Oni.
is the fastest way to run.
even though
but
Oni
also
predated
the
Halo
longest.
by a few years.
Now dash along the wall of the room until you reach the end of the track.
So you have to run through this tutorial here. I don't
Good
think it's gonna like
try,
that.
but you strayed
Yeah, I
from
left
the track a little.
I left the track.
The flashing lights will show you the parts you missed.
No, that's not working.
Now dash along the wall of the room until you reach the end of the track. Great. That
Now,
completes
for
our
some of
basic
the
movement
impressive parts of this
exercises.
game,
If you want to review your movement techniques,
I was always
go to
really
the data
impressed with the
console you
graphics.
passed during your track
For
run.
that time, these graphics were actually really, really good. In comparison to some of the other games we had around the same time, I'm trying to think of what other games we had around the same time.
When you're
Yeah,
ready,
we're talking
we
things
can
like
move to the next
the original
room.
Unreal. Maybe Unreal Tournament was right around this same time as well. Maybe.
Now we can practice some
Pretty
basic
similar
jumping
graphics.
techniques.
Similar quality. But the movement was always what impressed me.
That's
The
fine.
jumping and the animations of the main character here, and as hopefully we'll take a look at in a minute, some of the fighting
When you're done
moves
practicing,
were
jump
always
up to
very
the
good.
next room.
The frustrating thing about this game, and probably the reason, if I remember correctly, why I stopped playing this game, was the jumping. Jumping is a huge part of this game, and the mechanics behind the jumping are just clumsy. They're never really very smooth.
Well done.
This game would probably be a little bit easier with a controller. Right now I'm playing on a keyboard. I don't know if you can play the PC version with the controller easily just by plugging in a controller. Maybe you can. Haven't tried that.
Sorry to
But
interrupt
playing
you,
with a
Kanoko,
keyboard,
but I thought you might like to watch
particularly
this.
back in those days,
Another
that's
trainee
really
is
all you could
accessing
do.
one of the
You weren't playing a
in the
lot
room
of
below.
games with a controller
Jump up on the
because
platform near the window to watch.
plug and play controllers were few and far between back in those days. Most of our controllers were game port controllers, and USB was either not available or just coming out around that time. So always liked this. I remember this part from the time that I played the game originally. It was kind of cool to watch the other character get beat up in the window. Bungie was always really good at storytelling, and that was there's a really good example of it. You just get to watch helplessly as the guy
Now we
fights
can
the
practice some of
robots.
those moves
And he
too.
finally wins.
Let's start with
I guess
sneaking.
it's a guy. Maybe that's a girl.
That was perfect. Now let's try some acrobatics.
So let me do this. I'm going to take a break here. I'm going to pause my narration and play for a few minutes and just get through the tutorial, and we
Super.
will
It's also
catch you
important
once
to
the
learn how to
tutorial is
slide.
done.
You did it!
So we're just coming
Great
to the end
job!
of the tutorial here.
Now that your basic
and
training
hopefully
is
we can
complete,
start some
you're
gameplay in
ready
just
to
a
take
second.
on your first mission. I'm sure Commander Griffin will be very pleased with your performance. Don't worry, Kanoko. There's a lot to remember, but you'll always have your data comlink to help you if you need it. Your comlink stores lots of information about weapons, items, and mission objectives. It also has a help feature and even a diary built right in.
I first have to find my way out of the room. There we go.
Give me another reading.
All systems nominal. She's doing fine.
This is a mistake.
You aren't really in a position to criticize.
The Syndicate is using the warehouse to shuttle contraband. Chung went underground to gather evidence. He failed to report in this morning. Find him, and get me what I need to shut the place down. Or shut it down yourself.
I'm on it.
Update.
Diode latency holding at 27.1. Bioplasmic waveform stable. A Class 3 adrenal spike when you gave the order, but nothing out of the ordinary.
What are you sending her into?
It's a simple bust, in and out. She needs a trial run.
Good luck, Kanoko.
One of the more interesting things about this game that I always found interesting was the look and
Listen,
the story
Kanoko, you weren't in any danger
are
during
very
basic
much
training.
a
But now that you're in
Eastern
the field, we better review your
style.
health display
I mean,
meter.
this is you could easily mistake this for a traditional anime. And interestingly enough, this was made by Bungie West, with no, no direct Japanese. This was a purely
So there.
American game, as far as
Show
I
me
could
what you
tell,
got.
or maybe Canadian. And it's just made to look anime-ish. So here's some of the gameplay. I think one of the big criticisms about this game is the fact that even though the graphics themselves were pretty good for the time, the environments were all very, very similar. As you can see for the first few minutes that we play this game, everything really looks the same. Not a lot of variety here. One of the other problems that I always had with this game was the clipping. Generally, clipping doesn't bother me in a game, but for some reason it did in this game. I do remember that. It was really bad. The walls, you can see through them. The crates you can see through. Sometimes to the point of being disoriented. Because a lot of the fighting that you'll do, particularly as the game progresses, can be pretty difficult, and if you don't have your surroundings in check, sometimes you can get thrown off pretty easily. One of the other hints that this was a early game for a developer is the fact that there often aren't a lot of hints as to where you should go or what you should be doing. It gives you a general direction with your little radar down there in the left-hand corner. That if you can sort of see that yellow line that's spinning around, that indicates the direction you should be headed. But it doesn't tell you much more than that, and oftentimes that can be pretty deceiving because there's a lot of up and down movement in this game, and just giving me a general direction doesn't help when you've got navigate through different stories. The fighting was actually pretty decent and fun, but it got to be pretty difficult as you progress in the game. You know, here in the beginning, there's not a lot to it, but it got to be pretty tough, and particularly combined with the terrible platforming / jumping that you had to do. The game just became too frustrating, and I quickly lost my motivation to want to try and finish it. So I think I'm going to end this here. This has been a little taste of the game Oni. As you can see, we had some slight difficulties installing the game. We had to download that executable. I will try to put a link to that file on the video description on YouTube if you're interested in playing this game. Like I said, I don't know for certain if this game is available on any of the download services, Steam or anything like that. But you know, if you ever find it for really, really cheap and you want to experience what Bungie was like in the early days, this would be an interesting take on it. This has been the Therapist Gamer. This has been the second episode of installing old games on a new PC. Hope you've enjoyed it. I had a lot of good positive feedback. My first video in the series was the most viewed video that I've done so far. I kind of had a feeling that would be the case. You know, pure gameplay videos are always gonna win out over educational videos, and that's okay. It's important to have fun sometimes. So I'm sure I'll be back doing some more of these later on. I'm finally starting to get my video editing process down a little bit, and I've switched over from a Hit Film, which is a free, actually Hit Film Express, which is a free video editing program. It worked pretty well, but it had some, not really issues, but there were some slowdowns, and it didn't render things quite as effectively as I was hoping for. So I switched over to Premiere Elements, which I've used before and I really like. Premiere Elements, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like a stripped down version of the big Premiere program, but it's perfect for doing these, you know, kind of YouTube videos. So this has been the Therapist Gamer. Like or subscribe if you're enjoying the programming on the channel, and I will talk to you. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Kinoko, there's something I have to tell you about hypo sprays. I'm not supposed to talk about this, data suggests that hypos will work differently on you than on other people. If you use a hypo when you're close to full health, you may experience the overpower effect, a temporary burst of strength and health. It will only last a short time, so try to take advantage of the temporary boost it gives you. Please, don't tell Commander Griffin I told you about this.